Welcome. This is BloombergQuint. We are taking stock of Godrej Consumer Products quarter gone by and what we can expect going forward. And we're in conversation with Godrej Gambhir, the Managing Director and CEO of the company. Mr. Gambhir, good morning and thanks for joining in. Let me begin by asking you about your assessment of the quarter gone by, how things have panned out, especially in the last couple of weeks of the quarter, given there were lockdowns which were played. The numbers, of course, are out for everyone to see. But if you could give us a little more in terms of, what was behind the scenes.
Good morning. Thank you very much. And I hope that you and the entire BloombergQuint family are healthy and safe. It was a weak performance overall that fell short of our expectations, and the impact of COVID-19 was very adverse. All our categories got severely hit by the crisis. Till early March, the business was steady. However, we had almost zero sales in the last 10 days, and that had a very adverse impact. Usually, we have very high sales during the latter part of March, as it is the onset of the summer season for soaps. This is also the onset of the mosquito infestation season in home insecticides. Until February, we had a 5% volume growth for the year, which had been industry-leading, but we had almost a 30% volume decline in March. What gives us some comfort is that we have seen some recovery in April, and while the situation is still challenging, April has seen positive growth. What is also encouraging is that throughout this time, we have continued to get market share. In fact, in quarter four, we gained market share in over 90% of our portfolio in India and 70% of our portfolio globally.
All right. So as production improves and increases gradually as the lockdown is lifted, so can you give us an idea about some sort of timelines that you have in mind at this point in time with the way you're working with, and when we can eventually start seeing a significant recovery back to normalcy? I know these are unprecedented times and any sort of projections would come with certain risks, but I'm sure you have a certain idea about going ahead with this.
The good news is we've received all our permissions, and so all our factories and warehouses are operational. Things are easing back to normal, though there are challenges at the local level, which the teams are working hard on. We are already at 60 to 70% production levels, with 50 to 60% of our factory workers. Most of our distributors are operational, and though active servicing through our reps and our own sales teams in the market is still a challenge. Many of our sales reps are working and operating virtually to meet the market demand. The big issue clearly still is labor availability, given the challenges that we've seen with migrant labor. So our ability to get things back fully to normal will really depend on how quickly the migrant labor returns back. So in the near term, I do expect the situation will remain challenging. As I mentioned, we have seen some recovery in April. And so April has seen positive growth. Frankly, there is no way to accurately predict the coming year. We will have to plan for different scenarios, be adaptive and resilient. However, we believe that we are quite well positioned and have several strengths that will hold us in good stead during this time. We will see a huge flight to value as consumers will increasingly look for value for money or essential products, and a substantial portion of our portfolio is value for money or essentials. We do also believe that there will be a resurgence of home insecticides as consumers will look to protect themselves from all diseases. Dengue rates, for example, have been spiking up in Southeast Asia. So HI or home insecticides will become a big opportunity. And we also believe that hygiene and health and wellness will become a big opportunity. And given the Godrej brand name and what it stands for, cost and affordability and high quality, we do believe that we are relatively well positioned, though the environment, I think, will remain very dynamic and challenging.
So your markets abroad have done relatively better. Can you give us an update on how things are panning out on ground at this point in time?
On the international front, Indonesia has continued its strong performance. While the country had implemented extreme social distancing guidelines, Indonesia has not seen the kind of stringent lockdowns that India had seen. So Indonesia has continued to perform very well, even last quarter. And April also was a very strong month for Indonesia. Our African markets continue to be quite challenging. The COVID crisis hit African countries a little later than some of the other countries. So most of the countries are still in lockdowns, and the lockdowns have just started to ease up. So I do believe that Q1 will continue to be challenging for our Africa business. But we are seeing opportunities there as well in terms of do-it-yourself products, in terms of hygiene ranges. We're launching hygiene products all across Africa. So I think Africa will take some time and is probably at a weaker position right now than Indonesia is.
All right, and so final question on operating margins. Do you expect stability to continue, sustain? And the reason why I'm asking you is that, as the company increases production gradually, at least in the near term, I reckon costs will be a lot higher as compared to sales. How do you expect this scenario to pan out in the near term, at least?
Our margins have actually remained quite high. So for last year, our India margin was 26%. Last quarter, it was over 27%. And so we are sitting on healthy margins, a very strong cash position and balance sheet. Over the near term, we do expect input costs to remain relatively benign. Certainly, there will be some increased costs as far as social distancing are concerned. But the teams have put in several initiatives in place to be able to manage our costs more prudently. We will continue to make investments, but in a more balanced manner. But I do believe that the efforts will be to protect margins. However, the biggest question will be about getting growth back. I think if we can get growth back, margins will remain healthy. But there are enough initiatives in place for the team to try and protect margins.
Mr. Gambhir, we wish you and your family a lot of safety. And with that, thank you so much for joining us and taking us through the quarter as well as the outlook. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.